it's very, very hard. And this is something that I actually wish people would teach more and spend more time on in the training process, is not when you're talking about entering the world of opera and the industry, learning how to maintain your own true north sense of artistry and identity as a singer and artist. And if it's not clear to you, helping you find it and helping you be able to tune out all of those things that distract you and make you compare yourself to everybody else, and just develop that you-ness as an artist. I don't think that's taught enough.
It's so great to meet you.
You too. This is delightful. So you're in Vienna?
Yes. And where are you based?
Right now I'm close to Madrid.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But originally you're from America.
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota.
You're a classical singer, but you're an opera singer.
I trained as a classical singer and studied opera specifically, yes, like in my graduate studies at both Texas and Indiana University. And then, yes, I was actively working on my opera career and was singing. I sang a few roles, and then at some point I went to Germany and did the whole Germany opera auditions thing.
Really?
Yeah. And then at some point when I moved to Spain, I transitioned more to just chamber music and choral singing, and I haven't really sung a whole lot of opera since then. It's been different genres.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and initially, what drew you to a singing career, or how did your training start as a singer?
I was quite young, maybe 11, 12, and I was starting to do musical theater. Where I grew up, we were fortunate to have a lot of opportunities to be on stage just in the community. There was a community theater for children, for families. And my mother was a great pianist, so she kind of nurtured me. And, I also liked classical music, so I had a great teacher, a really good first voice teacher. And I think that made a big difference. And so I just kind of stuck with it. I studied piano too, but I really liked singing. And then.
But the musical theater, were you not drawn to that if you did that as a child?
Somewhat, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think because I was just really, that's an interesting question because it makes me think about, what we do, the choices we make that are based on others' expectations of us or other people's, how we perceive that others perceive us. If that makes sense, based as opposed to what we really, really love doing. I did love classical music, but it was definitely unique, so the fact that I was doing that was there weren't too many people, at age 13 and 14 singing Schubert and Mozart.
Oh, yeah.
And my voice was, it felt good singing classical repertoire, and I didn't feel really great, with belting and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. But then it's funny because recently I'm now teaching voice, and I have a lot of students who are interested in musical theater, and we have great fun, and I really like teaching it because and then as I demonstrate, sometimes I realize, hey, I could do this too. So
But there are different techniques in singing musical theater and opera.
Yeah, it's different techniques. I mean, I like to say a lot, and I teach a lot that no matter what you do with your voice, it all starts from the same core technique, and then operatic singing is just kind of slightly different placement and stuff. But I think the core of everything is the same. But yeah, and then slightly different techniques after that, and evidently because musical theater now, especially modern musical theater, is usually conceived of already with the use of a microphone. So that really makes a big difference in how modern musical theater singers study, because it's highly likely they will have a microphone when they sing. So, and that's not the case for opera singers.
But do you think there's a stigma? Not a stigma. So it's almost as if people see opera singing as oh wow, but musical theater singing as not so prestigious almost.
I do think that. Yeah, it's. I mean, opera singing. People we like to call it the Olympics of singing, I guess. Like you're an Olympic athlete of singing, because really it is about the furthest that you could take your voice as far as projecting it over a large orchestra so that you can be heard, by 3,000 people while 70 other instruments are playing. I mean, it's quite something. And then to do that for a sustained entire night of sometimes 2 or 3 hours, not continuous singing, but those big roles, they do that. And so it requires, almost superhuman training and stamina. So yeah, I do think it's like the extreme sport of singing. And musical theater, of course, has always been a little bit more popular. I mean, it's almost always done in the vernacular language. So, for example, if you're in the United States, you're going to go to New York and you see your own language on Broadway, and it's very accessible, in that sense. And the music is closer to pop style. So, yeah, opera is seen a little bit as the extreme on the outside.
And as a young singer, I mean, when you went to Germany also, did you feel the pressure? Because there are many singers and everybody's competing for specific roles. So,
oh yes, I felt yes. I think we all do. It's extreme pressure. When I was doing my master's and especially when I went to Indiana. So I went to Indiana for a performer's diploma, and Indiana University Jacobs School of Music is highly competitive, first of all, just to get into, but it's also highly competitive, the singers among themselves. So you just kind of learn to be in that environment. And then everybody's competing for these young artist programs, these, training programs for young singers, and doing all these auditions. And young singers spend countless hours and money, flying around to do these things. And so, yes, there's pressure to kind of make something out of that. For me particularly, I think that was always hard to deal with, not because of the pressure itself, but because I also had like a lot of other interests. If I were being really honest with myself, I actually liked other things too, besides singing. Yes. In fact, when I was at Saint Olaf, so as my undergraduate, I think I tried to quit the music major about 3 different times. Because I wanted to study German. Well, I did. I was a German major too, and I wanted to study international business, and I wanted to study international relations, and And then at some point I wanted to just quit and become a ceramicist. All kinds
Really?
of things. Yeah. And I had a little entrepreneurial bug too. I wanted to do, get into business. But, I think a lot of artists that have that, art is their passion. But to make it your life's profession it's a different thing. And I remember there was a gal, she was in my master's program, and we had a master class that day. So some guest coach was coming in and to coach. And I think we were doing like mock auditions or something like this. And at some point, I don't know if it was in the context of we were just having a discussion around it or something. She kind of got up and very bravely just stated in front of everybody, I sing just because I like to sing. I just sing because of the pleasure of it. I don't care what anybody thinks. And I'm not trying to get into a program. I'm trying to do anything. I just am singing for the pleasure of it. And it was so interesting because in my mind, I was thinking, oh, she's never going to go anywhere because of that, because if she doesn't feel the drive to make it her profession, she's not going to go anywhere. And then, years later, I still think about what she said. Because it's precisely that, singing for the pleasure of it and not caring what other people think, that gives you the ability to go out and be you, whatever you are, as an artist in front of people. So there, at that moment, I had this, at the same time, criticism of her and secret kind of jealousy of her ability to put all of those pressures and criticisms aside.
But this sounds, I can totally see what you mean, because also it, apart from the pressure, I think you have a type of maybe a tension also in you when you to have to compete the whole time and be on top of the whole time, and that's, I think that's also that tension that she didn't have.
Yes, definitely. And I remember too, the coaches would say during that time, well, there was one coach in particular who was my coach for many years. And I think he said this in a masterclass context too. If you can imagine being happy doing anything else, then you should not be singing, and you have no business doing it.
Really?
Yeah. And that,
wow.
Yeah.
That's so contradicting to,
that really, you have to be fully believing that it's the only path that will make you happy in order to do it. And that really plagued me for many, many years. That thing that he said, because in reality, I think there are things and were things that I would be happy doing. And if I'm being really honest, I think anybody could be. I don't think there's any person who couldn't find happiness in something else.
Exactly.
But for me, especially, as I mentioned before, I had a lot of other interests, and so for me, I think what I wish somebody had told me instead of that thing was that there are many different ways to become a professional singer, and it's not all or nothing, and it's not opera or nothing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also sometimes we put the art form in a box and we say it has to be this way, otherwise you're not successful, or otherwise it's not worth it. But I think it's like you say, you have to do it the way you want to, because you are that one person who brings something else to the art form rather than just being on that route that everybody else is on.
Yeah. Yes. And then that becomes, when you're, especially as a young soprano, because sopranos, of course, it's highly competitive. We make up the vast majority of of competing singers out there. It's the most common voice type. And so at some point, you look at all of the other sopranos who are doing well, and the automatic thought is, well, in order for me to do well, then I need to be like them. I need to do what they're doing and sound like they're doing and dress the way that they're dressing and go take the auditions that they're taking. And in fact, it's not like that. It's very, very hard. And this is something that I actually wish people would teach more and spend more time on in the training process. Is not when you're talking about entering the world of opera and the industry, learning how to maintain your own true north sense of artistry and identity as a singer and artist, and if it's not clear to you, helping you find it and helping you be able to tune out all of those things that distract you and make you compare yourself to everybody else, and just develop that you-ness as an artist. I don't think that's taught enough.
Exactly. And I think of ballet dancers, for example, that I've also spoken to, who tell me that the moment they became a mum, and the focus just shifted, they become better dancers, really, because it's not then this whole thing, there's something else. And like the one dancer said to me, sometimes, after the bows and then it suddenly hits her, hey, but I'm a mum, I'm going home to somebody. So I think that's exactly what you're saying. You need something outside of that, of the singing or the art form.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's funny you mention it, because of course I'm a mother too. I have two children. They're young. My boy is 4 and my daughter is about to be 7 years old. And that shift happened for me too. But not just that. I mean, I have found also other identities and other even professions that I wanted to do, of course. And I know I run a business too that's completely different from being a singer, but I still maintain my singing life. And in fact, it's good. I think it's really great that I'm doing something else, because I don't now see my singing as the thing that I have to do and I have to say yes to everything in order to make the money. It actually opens more freedom for me to choose things and decide things, because there's less pressure financially. And so there are certain gigs that I'm probably going to say no to, because maybe it's going to mean that I travel and I'm going to be, a few days away from my family, and it doesn't really compensate with the pay or whatever it is. Or maybe it's repertoire that's boring, or
oh yeah,
or or maybe the colleagues I don't feel as connected to, or whatever it is. But so since I have listened to that part of me, actually, that was interested in other things, and I did, start doing other things and have my other business. Now I look at music differently. And, for example, in 2026, I have a goal to create a new ensemble. I want to form a women's vocal ensemble that will be based here in Madrid, of 8 women. And this has been on my mind for, a couple of years now. And I feel like, gosh, well, this could be my next big thing that I do, singing wise. Has nothing to do with opera. And I don't care. it feels something that's really right to me, that feels really aligned with where I am in my journey of life. And, I do have a very strong choral background as well. From long ago, I've been singing in choirs, and my husband is a choral conductor. And so this is something I feel really called to do. And I'm able to kind of focus on it because I have, kind of another job that I do as well. And so this is kind of what I mean by that. I wish somebody had told me that this model's okay. But this model doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that you're not as good of a singer as XYZ person over there either,
And also it opens up the space in your mind to think of things that you would like to do, or people you want to collaborate with. Otherwise, it's just this, how do I get there? And it's all about how you survive this,
Yes. Yeah. And I don't want to be in survival mode.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I've done that. It's not as fun.
Yeah, but also as a singer, it's not just the performances, it's also the rehearsals and it's the preparation before. So, as audiences, we see the end result, but there is sometimes months in preparation for that one performance.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes those months are very stressful. Yeah, it's not always glamorous. And I think a lot of people see, especially opera, as something very glamorous. But it can be very stressful. And these top opera singers, if they have families, that can be very stressful on the families because, of course, there's a lot of travel involved. If somebody's a guest principal role, they can be gone for 2-3 weeks at a time. And that's difficult. So I don't know. For me, I do have like a particular love of the feeling of being on stage in the theater with the orchestra there and in costume and in a character. That's very valuable to me. But I also find very valuable a wonderful collaboration with, a small group of other voices that are all of the same mind in creating something special with this particular piece of music. It's just different. It's just a different kind of value. And with the other things I have going on in my life, I'm very, very happy to focus on this other thing.
It reminds me of this group, and I must now think that if I pronounce it correctly, but the Gesualdo Six.
The Gesualdo Six.
Yeah, do you know of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I spoke to their lead singer as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So and it's I always when I see them also on Instagram, it looks so great to have this group of people singing together, and just that connection that they have with each other.
Yeah. Yes. You can see that when they perform, they're really, really good. And you can tell that they have that. So it's almost like telepathy. And that's wonderful. That connection too, that's just something really, really special. It's not just about the music making, it's about the connection that you have with your colleagues there and the relationships that you form with them. That sense of community.
And I think the audience sense that, when you're performing.
Yes, definitely. There's another group also from the UK, Voices 8. And Voices 8, of course, they've been around in, gosh, maybe 20 years now. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. But they when they started, they were all super young, really young singers, and then they've grown. And now they have another group that they have kind of formed in the US. So, and I can't remember what their name is, but I think it's just women as well.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But it's the same. You can see when they perform, they don't look at each other. But they just start together. It's just, everything's just so aligned in the timing because they feel each other. They feel each other's breath and preparation, and that's kind of magical to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But what brought you to Madrid? How did you get there?
It was a very windy path.
Okay. I like windy paths.
Yeah. In 2016, I got married to my husband. My husband is from Mexico. We had met in the US. And he had lived in Switzerland for 3 years or so and visited many other countries in Europe. I had lived in Germany for, at that time, probably a total of a year or so, and I'd done quite a bit of exploring in other European countries. And we both just had that bug, like we just wanted to live in Europe. And so we just said, well, let's figure it out and just make it work. Mm-hmm. And Spain was a unique opportunity because my husband has a connection with a violin teacher in Barcelona, because he's also a Baroque violinist. And that teacher, basically without any audition visit or anything, just said, fine, really? you can be my, because they had worked together before, and so they knew each other. And so with that, we were able to get his visa, student visa, and then I came as a spouse of a student visa. It was something that neither of those visas allowed us to work. We were just here. We had nothing. We had very little money, and came with a few suitcases. And his program was not, he was already even like in his doctorate at that point. So this was like what they called continuing studies, basically, we'll call it. So it was just like lessons, just violin lessons. And since it was such a small academic requirement, we actually decided not to live in Barcelona. We instead chose to live in Toledo, which is close to Madrid, because of another friend who lived there, who wanted to collaborate on his business with my husband. And I felt more comfortable with that because it was a small town, was going to be cheaper. We knew that friend. I didn't have 2 languages to learn. I only had 1 language to learn because, of course, in Barcelona, there's Catalan in addition to Spanish. I didn't know Spanish at all when I came. And frankly, like Barcelona scared me. I felt afraid to live in a city like that. And so we went to little old Toledo, and that was our arrival point. And from there, it was challenging. Every year was challenging. It was, immigration, first of all, renewing of our visas every year for 5 years. No, I don't know. We had to do it 3 times or something within the first 5 years. Mm-hmm. And every time, having to prove certain things. And then a year and a half in, I got pregnant with our first daughter. And so that then set off a whole new sort of set of circumstances. I had to get a work permit. So I had to get a new type of visa. And then we had to get the immigration process for my daughter when she was born. And then it was COVID when she was about a year and a half. And then my son was born a couple of years after that. Wow. So the first several years were a lot. There was a lot going on, and we did what we could. I couldn't even work legally for about 2 years in. So I was doing all kinds of things, teaching English mostly, which was not the most enjoyable.
Yeah.
But
singing, could you do any singing?
Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, I did. I did what I could. I sang. We became, in fact, this was very interesting. We became basically the musicians, both my husband and I, at the Latin Mass in Toledo. Yeah. So every Sunday we went and we sang a Gregorian Mass. And we did it basically because we were the only ones who could read music well enough to do it without much practice, and I did some recording projects in Madrid, some concerts every now and then that would be paid for cash and that kind of thing. And then at some point, when I finally did have my work permit, I took an audition in Barcelona for a professional ensemble of a very fine chamber vocal ensemble. And they opened the doors for me. And yeah, it was really good, that collaboration. I still work with them sometimes. So I sang a number of projects with them. And then other people in Catalonia started kind of wanting to work with me. So that kind of detonated that part of my singing in Spain.
But how amazing. Yeah, but how amazing that, sometimes I think if I listen to your story, sometimes we are in situations, but these situations need to happen for you to move on to something else, even if it feels as though you're stuck in something, but you're really not stuck. You're just preparing yourself for the next part.
Yes. And if I think back to those years in Toledo, we felt very stifled because Toledo is very small and culturally very void.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the culture there is all about history. So it's a medieval city. And so people visit to see that medieval historical center and visit the cathedral and, a lot of ancient buildings. But as far as current cultural goings on, there's not a lot happening. And so we felt like we really couldn't do much. And it was very frustrating. But if I look back, those were the years when my babies were born. It was COVID. We were very safe. We were very cozy with our little ones. We had public health care, which is, that's huge for us Americans.
Exactly. No, but
right?
It is. Yeah.
I still am in appreciation every time I do need to use that. And we were great. We had our little community. We had founded a choir that kept working through COVID, and it was good. It was our formative years. And
have you ever in that time thought of going back to the US?
No.
Not.
I think maybe the first couple of years I was like, I'm not sure about this. So it was a big shift culturally for me. I had never been to Spain and moved there. And the social culture is very different, I think. And I'm particularly introverted, so it's hard for me to integrate, and it's a lot better now, and I have appreciation for it. But I think probably around year 3 or so, I realized that I don't want to go back, and I still don't want to go back.
Oh, okay. Because that's always the thing. You are now outside of your comfort zone. You are thrown into a different culture, and also, like you say, it's not ideal for what you wanted to do, but yet you found something. You found the positive of it.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And now, you also talked about your other business. So what do you do?
Yes. So I have a business that I started a couple of years ago now at this point. It first started as travel advising. So as an independent travel advisor to North American travelers to Europe. So using my perspective and expertise as somebody who's lived here to help people who may be first-time travelers, or they are just not sure, they feel some reservations about coming to Europe. and just helping them through that process. But and that was really enjoyable. I would create, custom itineraries for people. But then at some point it kind of grew into something else because I kind of felt that it became a little bit about travelers sort of checking the boxes of their bucket lists. And I have always understood and experienced the power of travel from the culturally immersive side of it. When you really immerse yourself in a culture, really observe it, really observe how people are living and how that's different from what you do, how people, as a community are living, how individuals are going about their lives, how things run differently, everything.
Yeah.
That can be a very transformative experience for someone. And really what I want to do is be able to give people that. And so I started offering retreat curation service. So if there's a group, for example, maybe a coach, like a business coach or a life coach or a leadership coach has their group that they're working with. And they would like to do a retreat where they do 4 or 5 days of focused work together. That I offer planning services for them so that they can do it in Europe.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a brilliant idea. And I was because I was, and now when you were talking about that people just tick off, the destinations and so, it's the same in South Africa. People go and visit these touristy things, they go to specific things, but there's so much about the culture, about South Africa that they actually miss because they don't go into the smaller towns or the smaller communities, of South Africa.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly right. And of course, Europe is so diverse.
Exactly.
And when people come, I really want them to have that experience that where they leave feeling like they see the world a little differently and they see themselves differently.
Yeah. But tell me, Evelyn, what is your dream now? What is the wish for the future?
Well, right now I would say I'm focusing on 2 things. One is my business and developing that more. I don't know where that's going to lead me, but I'm quite focused on it right now, and developing relationships with wonderful people and just amazing coaches that I'm meeting on social media, especially on LinkedIn. I'm very active. So that's one side. And then the other side, as far as music, my dream is, number one, to establish the vocal ensemble that I told you about. So that's my goal for this next year. And I would say for a longer term dream, this is sort of a co-dream of mine and my husband's, because he's also, he's a choral conductor, as I mentioned. We are also active church musicians, and he in particular, but me a little bit too, are quite passionate about bringing back very, very fine liturgical music to the church. And we see places like Notre Dame in Paris as being like on the forefront of that. The things that they're doing musically in that cathedral are just wonderful. So we right now have there's a vocal ensemble that's made up of professional singers. I'm one of them, at one of the larger churches in central Madrid. And we've just started it. And there's an organist that we know right now that we're collaborating with. And so kind of our long-term dream is to develop that into something whereby Madrid starts to become more a center for really fine liturgical music. And so I would just love to be able to support that.
Yes. But, you know, I read recently also that even in Europe, people are going to church more than a few years ago. And I was so surprised because Europe is sort of known for it, that the churches are empty. And what I find so interesting is that they talk about the youth, that the youth
Yes.
are returning to the church.
Yeah. I think in France last year, I don't remember which year, 2024 or something, I think they had like the highest number of baptisms.
Really?
But adult baptisms.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
So it's adults who are choosing to go back into the church. Yeah, I find that fascinating too. But, you know, the music part of it is just, it's definitely a passion of mine, because I think, if I may put my opinion out here, the way that the church is going, the Catholic Church particularly, with liturgical music, I think is in the wrong direction, because it doesn't, when you go and you hear music that's more similar to what you hear on the radio, it doesn't feel like you're entering something that is otherworldly.
Exactly.
But rather quite mundane. And so for me, the role of music in the church is that it's to present you it's to bring you into a space that fills you with sounds that feel divine and otherworldly.
I agree. You know, we lived in Windsor in England, and at the St. George's Chapel at the Windsor Castle, every afternoon at 5 they have evening song. Sometimes, and it's free to go in, you know, you can, anybody could go in. And I visited that so often just for that. It's almost as if you're transported. I always said the best massage in a spa couldn't do what that half an hour there, because it's the whole atmosphere. You know, it's that the sound of the benches when you go and sit, you know, the wood that cracks, and the whole cathedral, the sound of the acoustic almost, you know, and then this choir coming in and singing. I have very, very fond memories of that, and that real in peace, you know, that the music puts you in the whole atmosphere. It puts you so in peace that if you walk out there, you are just ready for the world.
Yes. Yes. And that, to me, that's it. You just said it. That's the role of music to me. And we need to have more of that. So yes, that's part of my dream too, is to bring more of that into the world.
I'm going to dream that with you, because I know how wonderful it is, and also how important it is, really, you know.
Yeah.
But Evelyn, this was so great to talk to you.
Likewise.
I'm so glad I got. I looked forward to it, and I'm glad that we could find a time.